Welcome to a new edition of the Kid Your Gotham Ode show here in Manhattan on Manhattan Cable Television. And with us this evening on our special weekly interview is the singer Copernicus, a man well known in circles of alternative music, as it is called, and a man that is known to more than a few, I would say, here in the city of New York for his ranting, philosophical, musical presentation. He is philosopher, he is poet, he is musician, he is, some would say, demigod. He is Copernicus. And welcome to our show, Copernicus.
Well,
It's great to have you with us, man. And I must say, I heard about you a while ago from a friend of mine. Sometimes you have to fill out a form. How did you meet somebody? Through a friend, was corporate reference or whatever, who is also a musician. And I must admit, a few years ago, I had heard a record of yours, and I was impressed by it. I thought, basically, this guy is totally off the wall. That was my initial reaction. But after that, because the aesthetic sound or approach is so aggressive and so sort of bombarding, essentially, that you're almost like flattened in a ring. But when you get up again and you hear it once again, or look back on it and remember what you heard, you find that there is a message in this music. And I want you to sort of start to tell us about what you feel that message is.
the message is basically that I stand for a new vision of reality. Mm-hmm. That the old vision of reality no longer works. And I have a different vision of what is real, and I present it through my work. Mm-hmm. People have to care about what is real. And
let me ask you a question, Copernicus. You say people must care about what is real, and yet you also say that nothing exists. So reality and existence are two separate terms, essentially. Could you explain how that is? Why is it that these two terms, reality and existence, are separate and even contradictory then?
Well, again, it depends on how people use the word. Existence, as far
I would
as
say
the way I use the word existence, or the way society uses the word existence, that's a word of an illusion. It's the world of illusion for me when people talk about existence.
Okay.
And reality is, for me, the real world. Can you stop the camera for 1 second?
Absolutely.
It refers to me the world of illusion, and reality is the real world that I perceive and what I'm trying to communicate.
Okay.
So there is a difference. One, existence is illusion, the world that our senses perceive. Reality.
Why can't we call reality existence?
Because nothing can exist long enough to exist. To exist in my world, you have to be the same from at least one moment to the next, and nothing anywhere stays the same from one moment to the next. So nothing can really exist. There is nothing.
Well, Copernicus, that's really hard for some of us to fathom.
Well, because you come from a Western world. You've been
I've read
indoctrinated.
a bit of Eastern.
Yeah, I know, but you've been indoctrinated from day one that you are born, that you are the same being, the same creature, that you live and you die. That's all junk. That's all junk.
What about everything is in flux? Everything is change, as Heraclitus says.
No, nothing is in change because there is nothing to change. Heraclitus was wrong. There is nothing to change. There is nothing around long enough to change. There is nothing. There has never been anything. And you are imposing your human senses on a world that you can't even perceive with your human senses. So that when you say that everything is in flux,
let me
that's
ask
not
you.
true.
Let me ask you a
It's
simple.
not a true statement.
Well, someone said it, I repeated it, I tend to agree with
Aquinas
it.
is wrong.
All right, I won't debate that at the
Nothing
moment.
exists, nothing can change.
If nothing exists, nothing can change. Can reality change that?
Well, I search for absolute reality, and my definition of absolute reality is a world that never can change. Whether there is an absolute reality or not.
You believe there is an absolute reality?
No, I never said that. People impose beliefs on me, but I never say these things. You never heard me say that ever.
May I defend myself
there
briefly?
was an absolute reality.
May I defend myself briefly? You said you are seeking an absolute reality. Presumably, and this is a presumption, of course, you are seeking something that exists.
Right.
Or you think may exist.
Absolute reality. If there is an absolute reality, that is something that would exist. That would be something that doesn't change, right?
Have you read any Plato, by the way?
Very little Plato 1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago, okay.
Yeah, I don't think that...
Understandable. No, I'm not testing you because I'm bringing it up because of similarities.
I think this has something to do with Plato. Plato has talked about this ideal world, right? That's exactly what he talked about, right? And but I wouldn't say that Plato was an influence on me at all. Maybe he is. Maybe
are any of the atomists influence? Have any of the atomists influenced you in the past?
I guess everything has an influence on you.
These ancient Greeks that thought that everything, the essence of all being was atoms, the atomic level. You say that a lot, by the way.
Well, there was one guy said you can't step into the same river once, you know, or you can't step into the same river twice.
By the way, that's Heraclitus again.
Yeah. Well, and
do you like that one?
Yeah, I like you can't step in the same river
twice.
You can't step into the same river twice.
Yeah.
But I like it better that you can't step into the same river once. I like that even better.
You are a riot. You are a riot indeed. And I hope we can send this to some of the philosophical societies around the country. Perhaps at one of their monthly meetings they can amuse themselves. Let's see here. I don't know. I'm wary of boring our audience with deep stuff all the time. But I think with you, because you tend to be deep or try to be deep most of the time on your records, in your music, in your poetry. By the way, are you foremostly a poet or a musician?
I don't know what I am. What I am. You know, it's there. I think I'm more of I'm a person who thinks and has certain ideas. I've struggled many years to have a vision that I personally have faith in, and I try to express it. If I use language, if I use music, these are just tools. That's all. I'm not. So I don't fall into music or poetry. I mean, those are just tools that I use to express my ideas.
Tools for communication, right?
That's all they are. I'm not. Why would I be? Why would I be a poet? The guy who writes all the time? I don't care. I use words to express.
Yeah, you use words.
So
are those? Let me ask you. No, that's a valid question for a guy like me to ask. Are those words that you put down on paper or sing out in public poems if you read them?
Great poems.
They are great poems.
They are.
Obviously, you consider yourself a poet.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. So I guess.
But I don't like to be thrown in that category. You know,
you're a lot of things at once, obviously, right?
I'm not just somebody who sits and writes poems. You know, I do a lot of things. I express myself in performance. I express myself in conjunction with other musicians. I express myself in a bar, every place. Life itself is the being of life is an art.
Yeah. Could you move your chair back a little bit? I just like to get a larger shot here, and I will be, of course, coming in close up at times, but this gives us greater leeway and perspective. Let's see here. If we're talking about philosophy, and I guess we are, even though you're best known as a musician or as a seller of records, how is it that you, on the one hand, claim that nothing exists, and on the other hand, you are so, how should I say, engaged in matters of social import, of social consciousness,
Because it's being.
of social reality.
It's just the process of being. You have to, because I say that nothing exists does not mean you cannot be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. You can be any, the most important thing is that you're being at every moment.
What
So
is a
if
doctor?
I be-
If there's nothing, wait, hold on. If nothing exists, what is a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher? Is that anything? Or is that just an illusion?
In the process of being, just as the plant is being, we are being, and that's what I believe in. I believe in this being at every moment.
Right.
Now, I say that this is an illusion. It's an illusion in reference to our own personal, in reference to our human senses. But there is a being process. The atoms move. Whatever makes up all the forces that are there. They just be. You are what you are.
Okay, what is, how do you
Being
define
what I am
social?
calls for me to come here and do an interview to promote some of my ideas. So be it.
How do you define social reality?
How do
You talk about social reality in some of your songs, and I would say in
society is a necessary or unnecessary evil, but it is. I never liked society, but at the same time, if it wasn't for society, I'd be trying to invent the wheel right now. And so society has. I don't think I want to be afraid of the thunder as if it was a god, or I wouldn't want to go back into the horrendous ignorance that existed in the past. I wouldn't want that. And because of society, we don't have that ignorance. Although you wouldn't guess that by talking to the average person in the street who's still walking around with a 15th century mentality. But society has a lot of evil in it in terms of the destruction of the individual. So, it's like a necessary evil,
So okay, this is all good good preliminary stuff. It's a thumbnail sketch really of your whole social view, but you have obviously admitted that society exists in some way, or
Nothing
society
exists.
is real. Society is real.
No. Nothing above the atomic level, including the atom, is real. There's nothing there. It's changing.
Is
There may
anything
be
real?
something-
Is anything real, Copernicus?
There may be something in the
Because-
subatomic level that doesn't change. We now believe that there are elements called quarks that make up the protons and neutrons. And if the quark is a particle of matter that doesn't change from one moment to the next, then that would be something real.
Uh-huh.
But I am not dealing with the subatomic world so much. I'm really dealing from the atom up. Okay, is basically the world that I deal in. I don't really get involved too much in the subatomic world. So
But
the world that
nothing.
I interpret is from the atom up.
You say nothing exists for them, and I think somehow that phrase alone seems to be implying that you are a philosopher. That
What does it have to be a philosopher? Just a person that makes an observation. I mean, everybody is a philosopher. Every human being is a philosopher. Everybody sees and everybody has their ideas, whether their ideas are right or wrong. But everybody is a philosopher. I mean, it doesn't make me any different from the next guy. I mean, everybody.
it does, because your stuff is rather radical, isn't it?
Oh well, maybe you're very far behind. I don't know.
I may well be.
So,
I may well be.
the first Copernicus told the world that the Earth was not the center of the solar system, that it was the sun, and they wanted to kill him, and they killed Giovanni Bruno in Italy for saying that. Right after Copernicus died, Giovanni Bruno went and said, "Hey, the sun is the center." They went, "Burn that guy!" They burned him. So was Copernicus a radical? I guess he was. But the point is that the world was also far behind, weren't they? So who knows?
It's true, but wouldn't it be true also that if what you're saying is true, then you have totally displaced the last Copernicus?
I say something of equal importance as he did, maybe of greater importance, but of equal importance.
It's of equal importance.
No, I think it's greater than the first Copernicus.
Okay, let's say it's even greater. So do you negate him? I think you must.
Not negate him. What do you mean negate him?
I mean, there is no solar system.
No.
If what you're saying is true, there is no solar system.
No.
Does the solar system exist?
Nothing exists.
Okay.
Anything above the atomic level.
So was
above the
Copernicus,
atom.
was the first Copernicus
There may
talking
be-
about
there may be
illusion at the
elements
time?
on the sun that exist.
Was-
There may be elements that are that do not change. Now I'm not talking about the subatomic level. Now you understand what level I'm talking about. I'm going from the atom up.
Is the atom real?
No, the atom.
Is
not
anything
exist.
is the quark real?
That I don't know. That I don't think scientists know.
If it's real or not?
No, I don't think they know. I don't think they found a smaller particle than the quark yet. We don't know if there are other particles that make up quarks.
Okay, I think there's some things called charm particles. I had a professor who won actually a Nobel Prize for discovering the so-called charm particle, but I did horribly poorly in his class, unfortunately, in physics.
I think the importance of this whole vision is that it helps us to see ourselves in a much more real way. It's a very sad thing to go through life and making reality everything that only what you see, what your senses, or what you perceive, what your senses, this is real. Seeing is believing. That's the worst and most ignorant statement you could ever make. You know? Seeing is not believing. You can't see the billions of atoms that make up my entire body. You can't see the atoms in the air. When you breathe in the oxygen, you feel your air, you feel your lungs filling up. But can you see the oxygen atoms going into your body and filling up? You can't see it. You can't, but you can feel it. You can feel it going in, but you can't see it. You can't see the billions of atoms between you and I. You know?
I can't. I can't.
And if you actually had atomic microscope eyes, that you were able to see, look at me with your atomic microscope eyes, that which would give you the power to see all the atoms in the air, you wouldn't even see me. I would disappear. I wouldn't be here. The atoms in the air would be taken up. The atoms in my body would be running around, playing all their little games, and joining with the oxygen in the air, and all the X-rays and ultraviolet rays would be shooting through this room. This is the reality I'm trying to make people aware of. This is the reality that we have to relate to.
Yes, but you have a specific organization of atoms. You're not just any configuration of atoms. You're that configuration of atoms. And that means that you can do certain things that qualify you to be a human. But let's not even talk that much about. I don't know. I feel that I have sort of trodden in fields that I'm not that familiar with, frankly. And I'd like to bring it back to those areas with which I'm more familiar. And you are too, Copernicus, because you have many sort of specialties, if you will. And get back to the songs themselves, because, well, just to make a segue into our discussion of your songs, how do you feel being one of the only guys in the music industry today who really puts a lot of thought into his song, in whose music the content is a major component of the message, of the whole package?
Because most of
How do you feel being alone?
Because I am not part of when you say the music industry, that means these guys, they want to make a song and they want to sell it and make $1 million. They're artists, and I call these people entertainers. You see, they want to make people feel good, and so they give the masses what they want. The masses go wee, and they buy the record, and they make $1 million, and they're happy. That's not my job. I'm an artist. I want to see. I have a vision of reality that I struggle very hard and worked hard to find. I have something to say, and that's the reason I'm an artist, and that's my reason to be. And I am a dictator, as you said before. A true artist is a dictator. He doesn't go and take a vote of the people and say, gee, what song do you want me to sing now, guys? I'm a dictator. I say what my vision is, and that's what my job is. That's all. I'm just telling you what I struggle to find after traveling, thinking, and reading, and doing everything else. And I'm trying to paint it. And certainly you might be a little bit ahead of the average person, because the average person hasn't been privileged, as I have been privileged in my life, to travel, to see, and to think, and to live day after day, moment by moment, caring about truth, caring about absolute truth, and wanting to know it. I mean, I did the last concert I did here at Judith Anderson Theater. One of the guys who takes in the equipment was standing in the back, And at the end of the show, he came up to me and he says, "Oh, it's a great show." He says, "But I'm not sure I want to think about those things." He wasn't sure that he didn't want to think about those things. You see, I think about them 24 hours a day. And most people say you go crazy by thinking of these things. Well, I don't go crazy. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting deeper. I'm understanding things much better. By confronting reality, you don't get weaker. You get stronger.
That's true.
You don't go crazy. You go crazy by drinking beer, taking marijuana, and sniffing cocaine. And you get crazy by doing that. By displacing the natural rhythms of your body. That will make you crazy. But by confronting and searching for truth, you will become stronger.
Do you have an anti-drug message then? Is that the point?
Yeah, well, sure. Drugs this turn you. People use drugs because society itself is too demanding. We don't know how. We don't have the teachers to tell us how to come in contact with ourselves, this and together, and bring it together without drugs. Society is always involving itself in attempting to enslave us, and so for too many people, the only way to get that harmony within ourselves is through drugs. By taking whatever drug you take, it pushes society away, and you're able to be alone with yourself. But the trick is that to be able to do it without the drug, so you don't harm yourself. Drugs harm your body. They really harm your body. And why should you have to harm yourself to get closer to what is real? I mean, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But this is the kind of society we live in. Someone taught our parents to be alcoholics and smoke nicotine heads, and now since the 60s, now they take 1,000 different other drugs. So that's the society we live in. They're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The trick is to do it without the drug. The drug damages you. It may give you that momentary respite, that rest, but the after effects are very, very damaging. And then, if they become addictive, where you need it to get there, then, it's like cut one of your toes off to get there. Cut the other toe off, and then after a while you have no toes, and you have to cut your foot off to get there. And pretty soon there's nothing left.
Okay.
Now let me take a drug of some caffeine. As I just spoke against drugs, I'm going to take a little sip of caffeine.
Okay, and we'll take a break here and be back with you in a moment.
No breaks.
Okay. Let's see what we have to ask you about the songs, because I want to get to the issue of social consciousness. Even though you do say that nothing exists, you also talk about a lot of social issues. Let's see.
How about I beat him with the fucking
Go in the kitchen and make noise, you bet.
I guess from just looking at the lyric sheets here, one of the most interesting or provocative songs is "Son of a Bitch from the North," and I'd like to read a little bit from it if I could. It says, "With a bag of sticks on her back, up the Guatemalan mountains in her blue faded dress. The old man was in front of her with his bag of sticks, and the vegetation changed from bananas to Christmas trees." And then there's a Spanish passage which translates, "May the bombs of the gringos not fall on us. I hope that the gringos' bombs don't fall on us. I can take care of myself. Take care of my children, because the gringos have sent the Contras against us, and they are going to kill us. Bomb their ports." You say in a different voice here, I guess. "Send those fucking guerrillas in and blow that fucking Sandinista motherfucker away. Blow that motherfucker away ×3. All children shall run into the ditches and hide. When the gringos' planes come, hide. The gringo, the man from the north, the man from the north. Gringo, son of a bitch from the north," repeatedly, "and he comes to kill us." So, pretty charged stuff there, Copernicus. I was just wondering, which position are you taking? Are you identifying with the position of the narrator here?
I'm the peasant. I'm the Central American peasant.
You're the peasant.
Yeah, I just want to explain to you how that was created. We were in the studio with a band called Chill Faction, and that was all done right off the top of my head. They started playing this music, and that music just knocked that out, and I knocked it out in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that whole thing was living in me. That's not something I sat down and wrote. That's one of the times where I.
It was an extemp sort of production.
Improvised, and
That was
the
sick.
music, and it's a really wonderful piece. I used to do it on stage. I messed up my knee doing it on stage.
Is your message that the U.S. should stay at home, basically? Is that it?
No, I was the peasant in here. This is the peasant.
Yeah.
There's no message. If somebody was dropping a bomb on your mother, where would you like them to keep that bomb? What would you say to them if they were dropping bombs on your mother? What would you say to them?
I would say stop.
Well, that's all he's saying. Let's run. Let's get the kids and hide. They're going to drop the bombs on us. And who's dropping these bombs? The guy from the north, the gringo from the north.
Mm-hmm.
He pays the money, and they're dropping and they're killing us. You know?
Let me ask you a question.
It has nothing to do with what the United States should go or what.
No, I'm not saying anything like that, but I'm just saying, should I, when I hear this as an American viewer, feel guilty?
Better feel guilty, of course.
Okay.
America's a violent, killing country. We killed a lot of people.
But you find good things about America too, or not?
Oh yeah.
You do? What's good about America?
What's good about America? The
Yeah.
freedom.
What freedom? What do you mean
I
by
don't
freedom?
think. I don't think that. I really don't think that I know the world fairly well. I traveled for many years all over the world. I don't think that a Copernicus could have evolved in any other part of the world. There's probably no other city than New York. So that's something good. That there is a freedom here that lets somebody like me do what I do and evolve in a tremendous freedom, and has allowed me to acquire the means to do what I do, so I can communicate to the world, and that's something very good. That's a real great compliment. That's what America does stand for, this freedom thing. See, lots of countries claim to have freedom, but they don't. See, like countries like France and Germany, they claim to have freedom, but they don't have freedom. Most countries of the world don't have freedom. You take England, they talk about freedom, but that's a class society. Although we have classes in America, but here you could be born in the lower classes and go to the top, because here class is based on money. In England, class is based on where you were born. When you were born there, you stay there. I mean, so America is noted for its freedom is wonderful, and a fantastic city like New York, where you have the opportunity to meet other people who are open-minded and who are not going to kill you because of what you say. I've been given the opportunity to function here and evolve. I'm just evolving all the time.
You said, or I said rather, in introducing you before, that you are listed among the alternative music artists. What is your message, essentially? And why is it an alternative message, and why is it not accepted in the main? Why is it not part of the mainstream? Because you believe it would seem.
I don't use $20 million. Michael Jackson was just given $20 million to promote his new album. Mm-hmm. I don't have $20 million to promote my album, my new album. So that's the basic difference. If I took $20 million and took my new album and promoted it, I would be in the mainstream. I mean, Michael Jackson is weird as anybody else. Prince, these people are weird people. Mm-hmm. They are very strange people. And
yeah, but
so what I'm saying is, you give me $20 million, I'll become mainstream very quickly. Believe me.
So you have a message.
I'll give, if I have to give all the payola to all of these stations, for a certain amount of money, you get the airplay, all that whole game, that whole immoral game that so-called mainstream music is involved in. All they're doing is just using a system to make money from people. That's all they're doing. They're not caring about truth. They don't care about showing truth. They care about a parasitic teeth into the minds of the people. They're enemies. They're really enemies of the people.
Who are these enemies, by the way?
Mainstream, what you call mainstream music. They use music to make money. They don't care about truth. They care about money. Unfortunately, the public keeps buying these records. So, they keep. That's it. Unfortunately, they're not supplying. The public is not supporting the true artists who care about truth. I mean, it's crazy. That's what the system is, and the people have to pay. The people have to pay because they're not supporting their alternative artists, their true artists. They're not. The people will pay because if you don't nurture your artists, you're not going to get the product of an artist. If you try to destroy an artist, you're destroying your own imagination, your own creativity. A society grows through its art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't even teach that in school. They don't even teach that in school, that art is important. What they teach in school is get a tool to make money. So,
do they teach that?
Oh, I think that's what they teach. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. You've been to school, haven't you?
Well, I felt that I wasn't taught enough about making money, but I was taught about a lot of other things.
This is a society that revolves around making money, and at some point in everybody's life, you have to say to yourself, I am not a whore. I'm not going to sell my entire life. That there's a world outside of money. There is a spiritual world that I want to evolve in, and if I don't take the time to evolve and become the spiritual person that I should become, and this is a thing that has nothing to do with money, then I'm a fool. I missed life. Robert Maxwell just bounced off a boat, and he had $2 billion. So what? Do you want to be the richest guy in that bounces off the boat? Life is not a matter of how
Let me
much
see
money
one
you got.
thing here. You have a song that says "White from Black." Is that right? And that song says that basically white people have evolved from black people.
That's just scientific fact.
Is it?
Oh yeah, man evolved in Africa. I mean, that's, if we don't go according to what our best scientists tell us, then we're fools. And that's all you can go by. These people, man, according to our best archaeologists, and that man did evolve in Africa.
What is the social significance of this fact, if it is a fact?
The social significance is that people are saying my skin is white, and your skin is black, and your skin is yellow, and your skin is brown. So we are all different, but that's not true. You shouldn't be measuring people by the color of their skin. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're all coming from the same mother and father, so we're all brothers. And all of these differences based on the color of the skin is sick. It's just ignorance. I mean,
Ignorance is a main theme in your work.
It's man's largest, biggest enemy. Man's largest, biggest enemy is ignorance, because ignorance forces you to hurt yourself and hurt your brother. I do that in Blood. If you remember I don't know if you heard that in the first album, Blood. I do that on stage.
It's true, Copernicus, but
It's the ignorance that causes the blood.
One can't help avoid. One can't.
I don't believe in evil. It's ignorance.
One can't avoid thinking that this guy bemoans the amount of ignorance that exists in the world today, which is great in his opinion. Yet he thinks that he has the answer himself, that he is not ignorant, that he is enlightened, that he can enlighten. Are these true things?
That's the biggest problem in life, when people misjudge themselves and don't really understand who they are. And I mean, Hitler was someone who believed in the ultimate superiority of the white race, and I'm pretty sure he believed in that, and he spent his life trying to prove that. And so, in a sense, you say he was a very sincere person. unfortunately, we there are forces in the earth that that were stronger and that fought against this this miscreant, this person who was sincere, maybe, but wrong. You know, that men are brothers, and one race is not superior. One race is not superior to another. That it's all one race, the human race. I don't know. I only include the human race. I say all animals are the same. All animals are brothers. The cats, the dogs, the cockroaches, the birds. We are all brothers. That I don't separate the human race from animals.
But do they exist?
Nothing exists. When you've brought me back into the world of illusion here, and I hope you understand that. That I'm talking in terms with the language of illusion, and we're back in this world of illusion, and that's what you're doing. And
Well,
you're sort of
okay.
forgetting my main
So-
message. So that's up to you, because you don't want to get too heavy for your audience. So that's what. But I'm just going along with you because you're the.
We can
you're
come. We can come back to the heavy stuff if you like.
Well, everything is. There's nothing heavy or light. There's just as long as you recognize that we are back into the world of illusion here, and back into the world of determining that reality is what we perceive with our human senses. And have fun.
Oh, great. But what do you think? Are you an adherent to Eastern religions?
I have nothing to do with Eastern.
Are you a student of
No.
Hindu philosophy?
No. I will be honest with you that
They say that everything is illusory in this world.
Yeah, but I think.
Don't they?
Yeah, I traveled in India, and I did go.
And you weren't influenced at all by them?
I think so, to some extent. And I was only 3 months in India, but I was outside the town of Benares, where Buddha supposedly made his first. And I did read a little pamphlet, and I read this pamphlet. It was just unbelievable that I agreed with so many things that were in this pamphlet. Now, you can't tell me that this little stupid pamphlet, what is Buddhism pamphlet, totally overwhelmed me. It was that I found so many things in this little ridiculous pamphlet that I agreed with. Now, there are things in Buddhism I don't agree with. Buddhists, as far as I know, there are many Buddhist sects, but I think every Buddhist sect recognizes that in every human being there is something. I say there is nothing. So there is something different, basically different. I say there is nothing. So Buddhists will say that though this is a world of illusion, and we shouldn't be that attached to it, that there is still something.
Well, that's a main point of agreement in any event. But I would still say that you have some things in common with those folks. There's one other thing that came to mind when I went through a number of your songs. The word nihilism. And so what did I do? I went to my trusty home encyclopedia and looked up what the definition was, or what sort of an entry there might have been for nihilism. And I'd like to read it for you, if you'd permit me.
But just precede the fact that that word is never used anywhere in my albums, so I know what you mean.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, you do say the word no.
Yeah.
Which might have suggested the word nihilism to my brain. I can't say how my brain works.
Well,
exactly.
you can imagine anything you like, but
Sure.
I never use the word nihilism. It's nihilism in my novel anywhere. Go
All
ahead.
right,
It's not part of my dictionary, part of my vocabulary.
All right, I'll pronounce it as you then. Nihilism. The definition that I show is Russian movement of the late 19th century, which sought social and political freedom for the individual through rejection of all forms of authority and traditional moral obligation. The word nihilism was publicized by the Russian novelist Turgenev, who used it to describe his hero of Fathers and Sons in 1862. Nihilists were characterized by skepticism, coarseness of speech and behavior, and a materialistic utilitarianism and agnostic approach to life. Some nihilists joined revolutionary groups such as the one that assassinated Alexander II, but many others many others, were occupied with the development of their own personalities without interference from any outside source. Other intellectuals in Russia were angered that nihilism would destroy all possibility of orderly and purposeful existence and was directly contrary to real human needs and desires. What do you think about ordinary and purposeful, orderly and purposeful existence? Is that something that's a high value for you?
I think you should be what you are, being. You should communicate with your head and inside this force inside of you. There should be a communication, and you should be the expression of that conversation. That's what I care about. That's what I call respect for yourself, and follow that. And that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about having a purpose. Just have that. What you should have is that conversation with yourself, and follow it. One second now.
Sure.
Keep running. Go ahead.
All right. So you're not quite a nihilist, is what you'd say, or are you?
I don't like anything that's going to box me in anywhere. I am what I am. Being is important, and you start throwing some kind of a tattoo on me, you'll have a problem, because I don't go according to anybody's I doubt that there's a definition for me. I walk in a lot of worlds, and that's all part of my being. And I wouldn't allow some school of thought to hem me in. My head hems me in. I have the universe, and that's a little too small for me. I'm looking for the outer edges of the universe. I mean, I have the universe is just too small for me. I need a large space. I don't need some nihilistic some guy's definition of nihilism to keep me in.
That's true, I suppose. Yeah, but it's hard to say why you would need a large space if nothing exists.
Being. Just being like the atom is being. Like all the parts of the world, just being what they are. You cannot, it's possible to be and at the same time not exist. Okay? That's disturbing for you? Do you hear what I'm saying now? I'll do it again slowly.
Well, most people associate
the
two. They equate the two.
It's possible to be and not exist at the same time. That's a very important message.
And what does that mean? What does that mean?
What does it mean? It means that the nothing exists part means that there is nothing here that is staying the same from one moment to the next. And the being part of it means that everything is just being what it is.
Okay. Okay. Let's go to some of the more lyrical.
But the trick to that is not only to think that, it's to apply that. And when you apply that thinking to when you wake up in the morning and when you get up and you put your pants on, those thoughts come to your head and you apply them to your daily life. This is not just some far-off thought that you think about. It's something that you must apply to your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And every moment of your life you should be being. If your conversation says, do this, and some outside force says, don't do this, which one are you going to do? Which way are you going to go? Answer.
That depends. Sometimes you go with the outside force, sometimes you go with yourself.
Well,
not everybody follows their own instincts that religiously, do they?
Well,
you're saying they should.
I don't know if I'm talking about.
You're saying they should.
I don't know if I'm talking about instincts. I think I'm talking about something quite a bit more involved than instincts, much deeper part of our being. The point is that you have to respect this conversation and follow it. And don't be so easily led by exterior forces, especially in society. Society is society is not a good thing. It's got a lot of bad stuff in it. And
But is it man a social animal? A political animal?
I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, if you throw me into the jungle, why can't I?
Do you prefer to be in the jungle?
I was born in New York City, so I never lived in the jungle.
Some would say otherwise.
What's the question now? Would I prefer to be in the jungle?
Would you? I mean, is the quote unquote
Well,
state of nature that a lot of philosophers talk about when we were free?
And I'm sitting in this little room talking to you. So you're asking me, would I prefer to be in the Amazon jungle with the mosquitoes? I don't know. I'd probably prefer to be here, maybe. I might want to visit the mosquitoes, but I'm basically a New Yorker, a city guy.
You were born in New York, weren't you?
Well, if you want to use that word, I believe nothing is born, but if you want to use the world of illusion again, yeah, I was born in New York.
World of illusion, okay. Wow,
I think you think I'm playing word games. You said that one to me once before. You think this is a word game, what I'm doing here?
I kind of feel that way, I must say.
Maybe
Sometimes.
you should try harder to understand what I'm saying. I'm not playing a word game.
I think I know where you're coming from. I think I know.
Let me tell you something. This is not something that you could just understand quickly in a thought. You have to think a lot about it, and
I would go further. I would go further, Copernicus. You have to have had the thought before already yourself in order to pick it up. One of my pet ideas or theories is that one only fixes upon or associates with what ideas one has already thought out oneself in some form or another, such that they will recognize those ideas and embrace them as true or valid or whatever. And that's a very good segue, I think, into talking about your audience, the most important people in the world that does not exist. And
my audience is not that important. My true audience is truth. My vision for truth. That's who I play for. I don't play for an audience. I don't. If there are people out there, it's okay. But if they're not there, it's not my problem. I play for truth. I play that. I create so that my concept of truth is happy that I did what I did. If there's an audience out there, human beings, it's not my problem. I'm doing them a favor.
I must say there's something a bit priestly about the way you come across. I don't know. I don't mean that as an insult, but I do mean it for you to react to it.
Well, I think that I'm sort of a priest. There is a priestly quality here.
How would you describe that priestly function?
Well, we say priest because I'm dealing with philosophical themes.
Philosophical,
and
moral,
very
existential.
Strong, yeah.
What
not
is?
Existential.
Wait,
use that word.
Wait a minute. No.
Don't use the word existential.
I mean it in the sense that thinking about where we came from, where we're going to, what is. In that sense,
The nature of our being, right?
Existential.
So,
one of the thoughts that came to my mind as I thought about you and read, I try to understand you primarily through the written text of your songs, because I didn't want to be emotionally affected either positively or negatively from the music. I just wanted to see what the message was, because I think that you are a message kind of artist. And I said to myself at certain times, certain songs of yours that relate to the idea that everything really exists on a subatomic level and such things, that this is a guy who, in a sort of a childish way, focuses on the idea of what will be when nothing is. When all humanity is gone and all that we can associate with or, identify with is gone, is no longer in existence. That is the defining reality of history. So you've caught upon this one imagination, as it were, the imagination of nothingness that can be, and that you have deified that is true now and forever and never was. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I like what you said, but it's not true. I didn't deify anything. I would never deify anything, and in fact, I will tell you honestly that because I think this way, this is what I think, I've thought for many years, that I could be wrong. I am not God, and I haven't deified and put my thoughts into a stone. So I'm constantly evolving, and I hope my vision is evolving. It's definitely getting deeper and wider. So, and you say that I just grabbed onto this, what, so I could make records, or I grabbed onto this idea because I'm so...
Because it's part of you. It's because it reflects. It
It's
reflects the way you view the universe.
It's what I really see. Whether I'm right or wrong.
So the description that I gave is it reflective of the way you see the world? In a way.
Yes, it is. You did. It was pretty good. But the most important, you missed one little element there. The element that one of man's biggest faults is that he thinks he's such an important guy. And we keep having great people coming along telling man that he's not such a great guy. You know, he's not such an important man. I mean, that's the first Copernicus told the world, you know, that, before man believed that God made this earth and he put man on it, and then he made the sun, and he made the sun to keep man warm, and he made the animals here to give man meat, and he made the corn to give man corn, and he made the water so man would not be thirsty, and all of a sudden the first Copernicus comes along and say, hey, listen, you know, you're not the center of the world, you know, you're just on a little dinky planet clugging along around the sun. And that was a big disappointment for man, because man believed for 2,000 years before, up to that, for 2,000 years, that this was, that he was the most important thing. That was a real big disappointment. And then we had another guy come along by the name of Charles Darwin, who said, now, you're not only on this little dinky planet, all of these animals you've been walking around eating are your brothers and sisters. And when you take a fish out of the water, you're actually eating your own brother. You know, you evolved from algae. You evolved from fish. Your ancestors were swimming in the oceans. You know, your great ancestors were algae, plants, because there was once a time when the earth was only covered with algae, and then bacteria evolved, and we all actually evolved from bacteria. Bacteria are your ancestors. So the apes are your great-grandfathers.
Are these things true?
Well, we see, again, science has enormous amount of evidence in bones, and that we have bones that are millions of years old that are preserved, that we can show you and document the practical entire evolution of man. Now, if that's right in front of you and you can see it with your eyes, and there's no serious scientist today that doubts evolution. You know, you
so
have to accept
I guess you believe that.
I guess I do. Yes, of course.
Uh-huh.
And then you have another guy by the name of Sigmund Freud coming around and saying, hey, you know, you don't think that you dominate yourself, you're the big strong man, but actually you have forces within you which dominate you, that you are subject to all of these various forces, and he picked on sex as a central force that dominates you. And again, man is being put down, that he's not this big macho guy in the center of the world, the center of the planet. He's now on his little planet, evolved from fish, and he doesn't even control himself. He's got interior forces that control him. And then we have, in the 20th century, we have now the proof of the atom, that, you know, that you are not what you think you are. You're not what you see. When you see yourself in the mirror, that's not you. There is no you. What you see in the mirror is not you. That your entire body is made up of these atoms that are in constant motion. And then a guy like me comes along and says, you know, these things are everything is in constant motion. You don't even exist. So here's this guy who's thought, gee, I'm a big macho guy in the center of the solar system, and all of a sudden, in a few years, well, 500 years, he's now doesn't exist. And that's what happened to this poor guy. But we still have the majority of humanity going around thinking that they are in the image of God, and believing in life and death and heaven and hell, and they live their lives, and they eat these animals because these animals were made for them, and they kill this lamb and sacrifice it. They sacrifice the lamb for Jesus or for whoever they say. I mean, David Dinkins just came from South Africa, where the South Africans killed a lamb for him. You know, David Dinkins, the mayor of New York City, they killed a lamb for him so that he would be in
to
his
eat it,
honor.
right?
You know, how would he like if somebody took one of his children and cut one of his children's neck open and sacrificed it for the lambs? Because the lamb has as much right to live on this earth as David Dinkins. All animals and insects.
Have you never eaten the meat of a dead animal?
Yes.
Do you feel sorry for that?
Excuse me?
Do you feel sorry for that?
This is what I am not a perfect person, and I have not freed myself from eating flesh. I have not freed myself from that, and it's a shame. I have a lot of defects. My mind tells me lots of things that I don't practice. And that, I'm on the verge of doing that. I very little, but I still do that, and I don't like it. It's wrong.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty well. Boy, we've really gone around the world here if we've gone to South Africa and back. But I want to ask you a couple of things in an even different part of the world, and that is Germany and Eastern Europe, where you've toured rather extensively. How do you explain the popularity of your music in Germany and Eastern Europe?
They, for some reason, they loved the third album, Deeper. That was, they really got very attached to that. And as a result of that album, I was invited to play all over. In Moscow, we played 9,000 people in Prague. Right before the...
9,000, that's a lot.
I gave you that video.
That's right, I saw that too.
Oh, and that was 2 months before the fall of the communist government there. We played 3,000 in Moscow, we played Berlin. I'm going back to Berlin now in May. And we played Poland, we played Lithuania. And they loved that album, and they loved what we do on stage, you know. And that's it. What can I say? What caused it? They liked the album Deeper.
What about their experience, would you say, in recent years under communism and so forth, would bring them to identify with your message?
Well, for example, in the concert in Prague, the first piece I did was called The Authorities.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have 9,000 Prague people in a stadium, Slavia Stadium, surrounded by police cars. And this was the first major music festival in Prague in 5 years. And I come out with the first piece called The Authorities, which is on the album No. I've always been in trouble with the authorities. The authorities, who by whatever means would try to seize me. And I just go right into the piece called The Authorities with 4 great musicians. And I mean, if you've been in slavery, communist slavery for 40 years, and someone has come bringing that message to you, and I go, challenging, challenging, challenging. 1,000 people throwing their hands up in the air.
That sounds a little sort of National Socialist.
No, it has nothing to do with National Socialist. It has to do with rejecting the authorities. That's what it has to do with. That,
yes, but it has to do also with a certain very strong emotional identification with you.
Anybody thinks that they're your authority, you should make them know very quickly that there are no authorities.
Well, wait a minute now.
And I'll tell you what, and not to say that I did it, but 2 months later the communist government went down. So I'm not saying that I did that.
You mean you're not directly responsible?
No, well, but let me.
Although you wouldn't disavow
Let me just run through this. In June of '89, we played Prague.
Right.
2 months later, the communist government went down.
Right.
In July of '89, we played Poland. 2 months later, the Polish people start marching in the streets, and the communist government went down. We played in Vilnius, Lithuania in July. 2 months later, they just started declaring independence from the Soviet Union. We played 3,000 people in Moscow. About 3 months later, they started marching along in the streets, declaring wanting the communist government to go down. Let's see, what else would we have here? We played October 2nd in Berlin. 7 days later, the Berlin Wall came down. I told this story to this guy from Holland. He says, "Copernicus, please don't come to Holland." I'm not saying that we did that. I'm just saying we were very courageous. We walked into the storm. Larry Kerwin, who is now got his own band called Black 47, and Mike Conrad, Dave Conrad, and Tom Hamlin, and Mike Fazio on guitar. Those 4 great musicians, and Corbett Santana did the video.
What about Pierce?
Pierce, unfortunately, was on...
What's his last name?
Pierce Turner.
Turner.
Pierce
right.
was on tour at that time on his own. He has his own record deal with Beggar's Banquet, and was unable to go on tour with us. But he did come back. He did come back and play. Oh, Pierce did play the... Pierce played the October 2nd gig, I believe. Yeah. But he did not play we played in Berlin before that. July 22nd we played in Berlin also. He played the October 2nd gig. Pierce did play it. We went there. Right?
What do you think, by the way, of all this anti-foreigner strain that's showing up in Germany?
We experienced it in Poland. I had our black video guy was a black man by the name of Corbett Santana. He came with us from New York. And they did a number on him in Sopot in northern Poland, where not didn't punch him or anything, but they took his hat and played with him, and generally psyched him up and frightened the hell out of him to such an extent that he went home from there and didn't continue with us to Moscow and Vilnius and southern Poland.
What about in Germany?
Now, I understand these skinheads are now in Germany. I understand they're also in Prague, which is a city that I love. And you see, what happens is these are not really Hitler followers. They're more creations of the very poor conditions that existed there. And you'll find that coming out in any part of the world where when things are very bad, the human being will try to blame somebody.
Are they still not Hitler followers if they wear swastika armbands and specific National Socialist symbols from World War II?
Well, Hitler was a product of very bad times. They had severe inflation in Germany, and so what did he do? He found somebody to blame the bad times on, and this is exactly the bad times now in East Germany. You're not finding this too much in West Germany. You're finding these conditions in East Germany. East Germany is having a bad time now. Poland is having a bad time now. So these are the same repetitions of what happened in Germany in the 20s, and when Hitler started his move. You get bad times, you're going to get bad people, and they're going to appeal to the worst in humanity.
You think we're likely to see more Hitler types coming up because of coming or existing bad time?
Well, I don't think that. I think that if you're talking specifically about Germany, I think the German people are much more sophisticated and much more educated than in the past, and that they would not allow a rise in Hitler, a rise of a Hitler movement as large as Hitler's. I mean, I doubt. I feel that they wouldn't allow that to happen. I think they've grown.
I presume.
Although I worry about them sometime, but. I traveled in Germany. I wrote a novel about Germany in 1961, about Hanover, and the German that I found in 1961.
What was the subject, by the way?
The subject of that novel?
Yeah.
The loss of male virginity.
Okay.
Or the search of truth. Search for truth again. It was.
You didn't lose it in Germany, by the way, did you?
Did I lose? Yeah, I think so.
Oh boy.
The thing is that well, you have a way of turning my head upside down here. What are you saying now? What was I saying? That the German youth of 1961 was much more open-minded than they are today. Because I've done a lot of traveling now in Germany, toured quite a bit in Germany. I have a lot of contact. I find that the German youth today are much more conservative than they were in 1961.
Really?
Oh yeah,
That's
no
interesting.
doubt about it. No doubt about it. I lived in Hanover. In 61, I lived in Cologne. I lived in Munich. I worked in those cities. I went broke in Paris, and I just looked for a job. In those days, there was plenty of work in Germany. So I went from Hanover, Cologne, and Prague, and Munich. But now, the interesting thing was, I wrote this book in 1961 about Hanover, and here I am in 1989. Now I'm a musician with band, and and I started to tour in Germany, and guess where one of the first concerts I got was? In Hanover, Germany.
Oh boy.
So this is now, was it 38 years ago? 38, no, from 1961 to 1989 is what?
28
61,
years.
28 years later, I was once at work in Germany. I wrote a book about it.
1961 you mean today?
Yeah, 61, and then in 1989 I returned there as a musician in a club in Hanover.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I have a great following in Hanover, and they really like what I do there.
Did you ever play Joe Apples in Hanover?
Yeah, I did. This is.
You told me, if I may, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to tell our audience that you told me this is one of the songs that you were inspired to compose or to conceive of when you were younger, perhaps in your teens, because I asked you, had you thought of any of your songs early on, and this was one of the poems that you'd written early on.
Yes, very early on.
And, you know, people tend to think that these are formative years, formative ideas, perhaps. I want to come to the point now to ask you if you'd be so kind as to show our audience a reading, a recitation of Joe Apples.
Well, I'd just like to say one thing about that. I could give you a tape from my performance in Judith Anderson Theater, which is wonderful. And you could cut that into this.
That's okay, Copernicus. I wanted to do this actually in honor of the fact that you began as a poet, and you read poems of yours publicly in cafes in the village back in the early 60s. And I think it is an opinion, it is perhaps biased, but I tend to think that it's a motivating factor, poetry is, in your musical presentations, ranting presentations. And so I wanted you to do Joe Apples, which is a sort of the perfect quintessential monologue for us, because it lends itself to that. And I have a feeling you might not let us down.
Joe Apples is not a reading. This is not some light. Joe Apples is not some light thing that you just. Joe Apples is not.
Well, I'm glad.
The sun was riding in the sea.
I'm glad you're warning our audience, because perhaps they should be aware. This is a very, very heavy, dramatic rendition.
Yeah, it's not going to be something I'm going to be reading.
It's not to be taken lightly.
It's a performance.
It's a performance of the highest order, I add. But it's no doubt a performance worth viewing, and well, don't really keep us waiting or anxious much longer.
It goes on for about 10 minutes, you know.
We're patient as heck, because we know when quality counts, you don't have to count quality.
We have to go to the next room where there's going to be a kitchen table and all.
All right, off we go.
Bullshitted by experts, and you ain't no expert. Don't fool me around. You know I play the game. You think I care? To hell with it all. And you come over here and start giving me a runaround. You're not fooling with some dope. I've been around. I used to pull the same shit when I was your age. I always had money in my pocket. And it wasn't a son of a bitch living that would fool with me. They all knew me. Apples. Hey, apples. And when I was young, I used to pick beans on a farm. 35 cents a bushel. The farmer would weigh every bushel. You couldn't fool him. I used to pick 3 bushels a day. That was $1.05. I kept the nickel and gave the dollar home. Yeah. I had to. My old man burned his whole leg in an accident, was laid up for a whole year. You got it easy, and still you complain. And still you give your old man a runaround. That's no way to do. Be a regular guy. Don't pull all that shit you try to pull. You try to make a jerk at everybody. That's no way to do. Be a regular guy. When I got money, you got it, right? Sure. I brought you into the world. I raised you. Now you're big, you forget all I did. You think you're gonna give me a hard time. You give me a hard time, you're gonna get you right back, and that's no bullshit either. That bag is almost full. Once it starts overflowing, look out, then there's gonna be trouble. You're like your mother. She tries to give you a hard time, but she can't. Nobody gives me a hard time, gets away with it. I'll straighten you all out. One by one, you'll all get straightened out. She thinks I'm always drunk. That's all she's got a goddamn mind. I'm drunk. I've never been drunk in my entire life. Sure, I take a drink now and then. That's my pleasure. Do I say to you when she drinks 10 cups of coffee? She gets up in the morning, there's 10 cups of coffee. I take one drink, I'm no good and she's good. Did you ever see your mother drunk? She was drunk plenty of times. I first met her in a bar. She says I stink. When I shit, shit, and it stinks. But when she shits, out comes Chanel number 5. She's good for you kids, but for me, she's no goddamn good. You weren't even born, and your mother didn't want you. But I wanted you, and you were born. I could tell you plenty of stories about her, but you're too young. You wouldn't understand. I'm a drunken, I'm a wicked man. A top-rate painter. I need a drink once in a while. Jobs I did 10 and 15 years ago, still I know. You whistle at my work. I can't believe it when I see it. I paint all those Jew homes and they all shake their heads. Joe, they say, oh, it's worth $1 million. Sure, it's worth $1 million, because I'm fucking Joe Apples, and my boss, he's another son of a bitch. He's always trying to tell me what to do. I tell him, mind your business. You want the job done, go take a walk. He's no better. I talk to him like I talk to everybody else. All these bosses are full of shit. They worry and worry. What do they worry? What are you making faces about? You did wrong, you know it. Tell the goddamn truth. I don't give a goddamn what you did. But don't lie to me. 'Cause it hurts me. Your mother lies. She lies to me. She lies like a fucking rug. I wouldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. Everything she says is a goddamn lie. She always wants money. Money money, money, money. What is she doing all the goddamn money? I take a couple of dollars for myself and give her the rest. I say, give me an itemized list. You think she'd do it? She wouldn't. She would gamble her shit away. Well, she must. Where the hell else could I go? I don't give a goddamn for money. But everything is a limit. Shit is shit, but don't put it on a stick, and you put it on a stick. I try to give everything your heart desires. What do I get for it? Kick in the ass, that's what I get. From now on, I'm gonna be a fuck-off like all of you. You think not? You make me cry, you sons of bitches. Please, good mother. I try my best for you because I love you. You don't give a goddamn for me. I can kick the bucket tomorrow and nobody would care. Little Jimmy and Franny would cry. Your mother would run like hell to the bank with the insurance policy. That's all she cares about, the goddamn money. Would you cry? You wouldn't cry. You'd go run with your mother. I'm no good and she's good. That's what you think, don't you? Well, you'll find out someday. I'm the good one around here, and she's the one you gotta watch. She'll steal your eyeballs if you're not looking. Well, you little fuck like Jimmy, who used to clean all your shit and watch you. Your mother? I'll be goddamn. She was always running her ass around. I was the one that took you fishing, to the movies, every place. Now you're big, you forget all I did. Now you're big, you think you'll give me a hard time. Give me a hard time, you're gonna get one right back, and that's no bullshit either. Your mother, all she wants to do is hurt me. She split my head 3 times already, and I didn't do a goddamn thing. She come right away with a fucking shoe, ready to kill me. If I hit her once, I'd kill her. Don't worry. I wouldn't hurt her for $1 million. I love your mother. But she's always giving me a hard time. She nags and nags. She drives me crazy. She drives me crazy. Fuck! Oh! Don't tell me to stop yelling. Fuck the neighbors. I have to yell at you bastards who would never listen to me. I'm a drinking man. I love to drink. And ain't no son of a bitch living gonna stop me either. You got enough to eat? You got a pair of pants on your ass? Yeah? You got a roof over your head? Are you satisfied? You better be satisfied. Who the hell do you think makes all this shit for you, kid, your mother? I'll be goddamn. I'm the one that brings the money home for you, kids, not your mother. All she knows how to do is spend an egg. Never get married because you think you love a woman. That's the worst fucking thing you could do. You marry a rich old bitch. Inherit her money, then take it easy. Now be a fool like me. Thing was, I was told before I married your mother she'd give me trouble. Old Mrs. Geddes, her boss, told me. Joe, she said, if you marry her, she'll give you trouble. And sure as shit she was right. I can't believe it. But that woman said it, even her boss knew her. Talking doesn't mean a goddamn thing. One of these days I'm gonna stop talking. And when I do, you better look out. I ain't never hit you in my life. You keep pulling this shit you're trying to pull, you're gonna get something you're not looking for. I'm good. Don't take advantage of my good nature. One of these days, when I'm in the grave,
Chelsea bar?
Doing his piece with his fucking trousers down around his ankles, wasn't he?
Amazing. Well, it's all in jest here,
What's your
folks.
first question?
But first of all, whoa! Thank you very much for that very powerful piece, Copernicus,
Yes.
because I know our audience is very grateful for your psychic investment. It's a psychic investment whenever you do a monologue of that dramatic
Tell
proportion.
your audience that Copernicus is now appearing solo and will be doing a series of shows at the Theater for the New City.
The phone is ringing off the hook for that performance at the Theater of the New City, Copernicus.
December 6th and 7th,
December 6th and 7th.
13th and 14th,
13th and 14th of December.
20 and 21 of December.
The 20th and the 21st of December. All these at the Theater
For the New City.
for the New City.
At 155 First Avenue at First Avenue and 10th Street.
Okay, 155 First Avenue at First Avenue and 10th Street. So that's where 10th Street and First Avenue intersect?
Yes.
I guess so.
And,
And
tickets can be bought
just to
through
say it one more
Ticketmaster.
time, you know.
Tickets can
And
be bought through Ticketmaster.
Ticketmaster, so it's convenient, folks. And if you want to hear the new Socrates, that's my new nickname for you, Copernicus. You are Copernicus, a man distinguished enormously in his own right, but I add the Socrates, so you're, for me, Copernicus Socrates, CS. How about that?
Good.
All right, philosopher. And this is Pierce Turner, by the way, a man who is instrumental on the instrumentals.
Very pleased to meet you, George. How the hell are you doing there?
Great to meet you, and, well, not far.
Pierce is one of the most important inspirations in my artistic life. We started together in a bar. He was playing, he and Larry Kerr were playing in a bar, and I saw them, and I asked the bartender if I could do a spontaneous piece with them.
Is it Larry Kerwin?
Yes.
Huh?
And
Larry Cohen.
we went up
Cohen?
Cohen, yeah.
and
It's not Kerwin anymore?
No, Larry Cohen is his name. We call him Kerwin.
And we went up there, and it was great. And we, from there on, we did a lot together. We made 4 albums together, and he improvised all of this work. We used to do.
Let me ask you a question, Copernicus. Why do you call Larry Cohen Larry Kerwin?
He's playing games with you. It's Kerwin.
Oh, it is actually Kerwin.
Well, it's Kerwin since he moved to America, but when he was in Ireland, his name was Larry Cohen.
Yeah, but he's not in Ireland now.
Yeah, but he changed his name. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know if there's any animosity here, or just love of the truth, philosophy, but anyway, here we are once again, and I just feel it's not that you're not musical, Copernicus, but we have concentrated exclusively on you so far. I want to ask you, Pierce. How do you guys come up with that weird Copernicus music, or how did you?
Well,
It's an experience in and of itself. There's 2 big whammies when you listen to a Copernicus album. One is the lyrics, which are weirded out, very, very deep, maybe even deeper. And the other whammy is the musical oddness, the musical odyssey. How do you know what to play when you hear this stuff? This guy supposedly started as a poet, reciting down in the village. You would hear things that he'd come up with, and you might do music, and he would hear music. But how did you know, both of you, Copernicus and the musicians, what was good for each other? How does it mix?
well, the one thing we had in common is that we were relaxed enough when we were doing what we did that we didn't care. You know, it was like we wanted it to be great, but we weren't actually worried about being commercial or anything like that.
Right.
There was no concern for that at all. So that was a very important common thread, because you can go to any rehearsal studio in New York right now, and the main thing everybody in that bloody studio is thinking about is, how can we have a hit single? We never cared about that. We didn't give a damn about any of that. It was just about doing something that we felt was exciting and great.
Okay,
For example, let me
I understand the commercial
let me
success.
Let me answer that because one day I said, because we had been doing, let me see, I said, let's go to a studio. This was really very early. And Larry Curran, Pierce Turner, and myself, we went into this studio. And we recorded. And from that recording, we got our first gig at Max's Kansas City. And
How did the three of you get together?
well, I gave you the story before that they were playing on a stage by themselves. They used to be Pierce Turner, Larry Curran, Turner and Curran of Wexford. That was the kind of music that was their group at that time, 1977.
We were playing in a bar, and
I just
he
asked
came in and got up and started improvising words while we were playing a song. And that was the birth of the idea of instrumentation behind Copernicus.
But the point is that after the first gig at Max's Kansas City,
What year
I
was this, by the
counted
way,
in one
Copernicus?
year, and I counted in 1 year we had done 54 original pieces on stage, okay, all improvised. So to rehearse was a sin.
Yeah, we never rehearsed.
We'd go before maybe the show and have a cup of coffee and then talk about it for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we were in all of us were in bands that had to rehearse, and we were sick of the bloody thing. We were fucking sick to death of it. So the idea of playing with Copernicus and us doing this thing that was totally free-form improvisation was just so refreshing. You know, it was just an exciting experience. And we could really get fucked up. You know, we could smoke plenty of pot and get drunk before we went on stage. And there was no. I mean, Copernicus was fond of the drink at the time. I mean, he used to say that Copernicus wasn't there till he was half in the fucking can at the time. We had great gigs. Great gigs.
Well, the piece Nagasaki, for example, on Nothing Exists, that was recorded on a tape deck in Max's Kansas City. We didn't even know that happened.
Let me ask you, if everything is subatomic, by the way, if all reality or existence is if all existence is subatomic, and you can reduce everything to atoms if you bomb a place like you did at Nagasaki, why not just take a lot of bombs and just create Nagasaki all over the planet so that everything will be to its real existential level?
Well, that wouldn't make any difference. I mean, everything is at its real existential level.
It is already.
By dropping
Okay.
bombs, you don't do anything. You just stir up the atoms a little bit more. But
You do destroy something that is.
no, you don't
you?
destroy. There is nothing that is.
Oh, there is nothing.
So, but dropping bombs does not.
Is it bad to drop a bomb then if there's nothing that is, or not?
There's no such thing as good or bad.
So then it doesn't matter that we killed 200,000 Iraqis.
You can't kill 2,000 or 200,000. They don't exist in the first place. There's no such thing as death.
Have you been
You
in
laugh
touch?
at it, but it's not funny.
Have you
It's
been in
true.
touch with the Bush administration lately?
You see, the bad thing, not the bad thing, but the thing that if you cause harm to someone, cause suffering, that is to be avoided.
Why?
Why?
They're atoms. They're subatoms. They're not even atoms.
It's why? Because in the process, there is the capacity in this process of being where one being is able to transfer pain to the next. So if you harm yourself, you sort of, in the world of illusion, harm yourself, the pain is transferred. As the being keeps evolving, keeps going, the pain is transferred.
Am I making a mistake to talk about it since it's in the world of illusion? I mean, is it futile? Is it worthless if it's illusional? Or is illusion of value too, by the way? That's a question that I didn't get to ask
I
you
would
before.
say illusion has no value.
Okay, so most of what we know, most of what we think we know
It's junk.
has no value.
We're living in a world of stupid world.
That's the essence of it.
Junk. It's all worthless. The thing is, I don't mind you living there, but I don't take it seriously. You know, this is...
You live there too, by the way.
No, I don't live there. You,
Oh,
you know,
wait a minute.
You might live
How?
there.
Wait a minute. How have you escaped it?
Consciousness, awareness. I've evolved into it. Now, everybody can do that.
Wait, are some of your atoms better than my atoms?
No, it's just that the computer up here is geared to think other ways. Through evolution, ideas you can grow.
Let me ask you a question, once again, Pierce. Having worked so closely with Copernicus for so long and heard his songs over and over again, freshly each time, do you feel a certain kinship to his way of thinking? I mean, do you guys think, if not alike, is there something connecting you two?
Yeah.
What is it?
Sort of insanity. a sort of eccentricity of some sort.
But in terms of ideas and thinking about the world and how it is, do you two guys?
We have similar beliefs.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think that
Copernicus has his doubts. I think he was
He
shaking
has
his head a moment
absolutely-
ago.
He definitely has his doubts, but he's such a fucking know-all.
No, not doubts. I mean,
Does he think that he
he says
figured
he
it out
might say
before
the
you
same-
and that you're like tagging along or something?
no.
He has a lot of respect for me, definitely, and I have a lot of respect for him.
I know that
But,
by the
like,
way from
that's-
before.
But hanging out like with regular people is so boring because the point of view would depress the shit out of you. That you have to be thinking about fucking the stock market and all the other shit that's going on in the world and how much money you're making, how old are you, when are you gonna die, how long are you gonna live, what's ailing you. You know, it's nice to know somebody that's like got a higher point of view.
You're right, man. I feel a little bit that way about a friend of mine, Loganic one, who's in Berlin right now, but I don't want to talk about him. It's not about him, but I understand the way you see Copernicus. But Copernicus.
I feel the same about you, by the way.
About what?
Yeah, he's a great interviewer. I love it, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you
The
very
interview
much.
by him is great, man. I tell you that. I said it to you before.
You definitely smell of another nut. I mean, I tell you the truth. I tell you, I've been thinking seriously having a party here with all the eccentric people I know in the one room, just to look at them.
Bring some anthropologists along, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the list.
Psychologists,
down. The list
whatever
was
you
enough.
need.
The list actually made me laugh for a half an hour, just looking at the list.
The list of what?
His list. No, my list of
Oh,
the
yours.
eccentric people.
So Copernicus is a little eccentric, but you know, as a
I'm not eccentric. I'm very normal. It's you people that are messed up.
well,
we
there's
did
there's
a-
a difference.
We
Is
did
the
a
point
piece
here,
at Max's
Copernicus?
Kansas City. It's
We're
called
not-
I'm not insane. You know that there's no such thing as insanity. You know, the insanity is if I disagree with you, therefore I'm insane. I'm insane because you have the power to put me into an insane asylum. But if there were more people who thought the way I did, you would be the one in the insane asylum. Do you understand that?
I do very well understand that, and I'm glad you said that because it comes to a question that I had in mind earlier, and that is this. You are called, as we said, an alternative artist, whatever the hell that means, and I guess it really means somebody that's not pigeonholed in commercial holes that already have been carved
An
out.
alternative to boredom.
Okay, alternative to what is, which is very limited in any event. But it's possible, theoretically, that a guy like you, this alternative guy, with a message though, who's thought about a few things, a number of things, and has thought about them long and hard, and has something to say about them that's definite. It's possible, maybe not likely, but possible, that you will cease it on one fine day to be this alternative artist, and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people around the world will sort of listen up to Copernicus and find out that he exists or that he's real. I don't know which is more correct. What happens if that happens? I mean, do you change at all? It would seem to somebody like me that if it's not the same existential, if you will, reality to be known by 1 billion people and to be known by 100 or 500,000.
Well, you see, you could always fall down, and from where your consciousness is, if you don't grow and if you don't evolve, and the pressures of society become so great that they start building your ego up, and you fall for you love your press, and you fall in love with that. You could, I could.
I'm not talking. No,
I'm just saying.
I hate to interrupt you. I hate to interrupt you, but I'm not
I don't have
talking.
to keep going forward.
Oh, sure.
I could go down.
That's understood.
What I'm saying is
No,
I could go either way. I could become even more spiritual and draw strength from the fact that there were lots of people
Right.
who agreed with me, or I could fall down and become a moron and become a spiritual leader and have them all make donations, and I become very rich.
Well, let me say one thing. I mean, you might have to face this. It's not likely, but I'm saying a theoretical
Why
possibility.
isn't it likely?
Because nothing exists. Because nothing can happen. I don't know. But anyway, because it happens rarely. But let's assume it happens. Let's assume that tomorrow you have 500,000 people at your doorstep, which is the world, and they follow you, and they follow you very closely, and they want to hear you, and they determine their thought to a certain extent according to what you say. Are you ready? Are you ready for that leadership?
Yeah, no, I don't. But I don't preach that. I don't say that you should do what I say.
No.
I should.
No.
What my message is that you should do what you say. That's what I say. You should not do what I say.
Right.
I am not Jesus. The Jesus is in you. Jesus is in every human
But
being.
you do say certain things aside from that.
What?
You do make certain judgments.
Show me where I would
You
have
make
to
judgments about society. You make judgments about how things are in the world. You make judgments, for example, that Americans shouldn't be dropping bombs on South America. You make the judgment that white people evolved out of black people.
That's
you
not
make
my
certain,
judgment. That's
all
basic
right.
science.
But you've accepted
You
it.
learned
You've
that in the
adopted
first
it.
grade, and
But
then
you've
you get
adopted.
used
You've
to
made it.
school.
You've made it yours. You've made it yours.
No, scientists, I respect science. If science says something, I have to go along with it.
But okay, in any event, I don't. That's not really the point. The point is, if you were to acquire a really big in numbers following, and they looked to you, and these people look to you
No
for
one
leadership.
should look to anyone else for leadership. You should look to yourself for leadership. You
But-
should not be looking to other. If you look to other people for leadership, you're in
But
trouble.
what if they look to you for leadership?
Well, then I'm going to try to turn them off because their leader should be themselves. Their leader is inside of them.
Uh-huh.
If they want to be lambs of sheep.
So you're going to get rid of them as soon as you get them.
Well, I'll talk to anybody, but the leader is in you, and that's who your leader
It
is.
does happen, you know, that people become really famous and they're rejected.
Yeah, but that's all illusion. That's all illusion anyway. That's not really a concern for me, really. The only reason I am in art and in creating is that I grow through art. I grow through pushing myself to create the new piece.
How can nothing
the new
grow? How
masterpiece.
can nothing grow?
That's being. Okay. See, there is a language problem in that I have to talk to you in the world of illusion and in the world of reality at the same time. It's a difficult thing because I have not yet developed a language.
This dichotomy between
There is a dichotomy, and
between
there's not-
world of illusion and
and using
reality
one language
smacks
to-
of Buddhism, of Hinduism rather.
Well, so whatever it is. So let's smack it. You know, what can I tell you? So it smacks.
Is it true? Is it?
I have
Is that
nothing-
where it comes from?
I don't know that much about Hinduism. I told you before I traveled in India, but I'm not Hindu. What do I know about Hinduism?
You might
You
know
know,
a few things more than the average
You know,
guy.
the thing is that anybody that thinks for themselves might agree with somebody who thinks for themselves in India. I mean, why not? It's only common sense. The only thing is I have an advantage over Buddha, who lived 300 BC. I have modern science at my aid. We can now photograph an atom. You know, Buddha had to think that maybe there were things called atoms or Democritus, that there were possibly things. I don't have to think about it. I can photograph it. You know, we have an instrument that can actually go and touch an atom and jump over it.
All
So what I'm saying is that there's an advantage that if you think for yourself, and someone in India thinks for themselves, okay, but I have a big advantage because I have modern science at my side, and the old guys didn't have that. That's how great they were.
Mm-hmm.
To come to these conclusions without the aid of modern science.
Maybe
You know,
instinct.
modern
Maybe
modern
sort
science
of
is so,
a priori knowledge. of that.
the things that I'm saying are so really simple. Really, they're not that complicated. You
I'm
just
not
have-
saying that they are.
You have to think about them a
But-
little bit, and you come to the same.
But I'm
conclusion.
sure that you've challenged a lot to get to these ideas or
Yeah,
these
because
conclusions.
you have to break away.
And I have to challenge you
Yes, you have to
because I'm your audience.
You have to break away. You have to break away from all the junk that was imposed on you as a child when you were not able to think for yourself. Your mother, your teachers, or that entire group of people who loved you so much, but who took your brain and stuck junk into it. That was in their heads. They wanted you to have the same junk, and it was junk. And you had to get to some point where you became an individual and you had to think for yourself. And at that point is when you should change your name and call yourself a new name. You should never go through an entire life with the same name that you came into this world with. You should have a new name.
Well, clergymen sometimes do that, and I guess you say so, everybody should.
Yes, you should be reborn. When you believe that you are now thinking for yourself, that you are not the copy of your mother and father, of your teachers. That you are, these are the ideas that come from my mind, that I found for myself. This is not what my mother taught me, my teacher taught me. This is what I think for myself. And at that point, when you become your own man, call yourself a different name.
By the way, talking about backgrounds and becoming one's own man and so forth, and breaking away from the past. You told me that you're Polish. You presumably were raised in a Catholic home. Do these two identities that don't exist, Polishness and Catholicism, did they ever have an effect on your life?
Well, of course they did. I freed myself from all of that. I have no
But
greater love for a Polish person than for an African. I've grown out of Catholicism. Catholicism is the highest form of ignorance. I mean, it did its job at some point, but it was basically a religion that was imposed on people through violence. And again, the same process. Constantine won a battle, so he made the whole Roman Empire Roman Catholic. What can I tell you? And then the kids and they dumped it on each other for generations after that. But I'm free of that stuff.
I see what you're saying.
I'd hate to see other, the new children have that stuff dumped on them.
Okay, I understand. That's a comprehensible answer. Finally, I'd like to go to your to the way you approach your audience, and you do have a substantial audience both here and abroad. Whatever one chooses to call it, whether alternative music or otherwise, it's music, and there is an audience for it. What I want to ask you is this: why make music for an audience? Why publish records, given your philosophy? Why communicate with other humans who are essentially subatoms in their essence? And then, how did you come to do it through a private company of your own, whereas most musicians who become known to any extent go to recognized commercial companies? You created your own company. So, number one, why communicate with an audience, and how did you get to communicate through your own company?
Well, Copernicus is really a giving back thing. As I said to you before, that if it wasn't for the human beings that came before me and again in the world of illusion, I would be now trying to invent the wheel. So every generation should give back, and Copernicus is giving back. And my albums are the best that I can do, and I'm giving back to other people. I believe that I know Pierce has inspired many people over many years, and this man is a true artist who's given his life to inspiring people, to raising people, and sharing his consciousness. So the reason I make records is to give back. Now, why do I have a record company? I am not a poor man. I have made money in the world of business, and so I'm able to do this.
So you think if one has the money to be if one is to be an artist and one has the money, it's best to have your own company?
Well, if you want, you should have control, as much artistic control over your work as possible.
Mm-hmm. Do you make profit from your company?
No, I lose very heavily.
You do lose heavily. Uh-huh. And
yes, but the forces that be give me money so that I can do my best with truth.
Which forces? What do you mean the
Whatever
forces?
Whatever the forces are, I don't understand who they are, but they gave me money. And
other people gave you money?
Not people. The forces that made luck, Mother Luck.
Oh, okay.
And I once heard a voice. This is true. And this voice said to me, "Copernicus, I'm giving you this money, and if you spend it on yourself, selfishly, I'm going to take it away from you." And I heard that. I heard that voice, and
I heard that voice as well.
I heard that voice, and I really believe that voice. And I like to, if I have some money to share, that's what I'm doing.
Finally, Copernicus, you said that the reason that you do your music is to give back. What are you repaying for? What have you received that you feel is so valuable?
Just to be what I am, just so that when I look at the sky, I don't see, there's not the sun god that's rising up in the sky. When it's thunder, I'm not going to run underneath the table because I'm afraid that the god of thunder is out to kill me. The horrendous ignorances that I don't, just for the first Copernicus who told me that the earth is not the center, that's the sun. For all the wonderful people who gave and sacrificed in the entire history of human history, they gave back. We have to give back. It's only honest, it's only fair. And for us to be born in a very rich country and to be pigs and take it all for ourselves and just forget the future and forget people is wrong. It's immoral. And it's very destructive. It's self-destructive.
Yeah.
You have to give. Giving is the most greatest experience in living.
When someone like Paul McCartney has 250 million pounds, what is the point? I mean, after 1 million pounds, what is the point? After 500,000 pounds, what's the point? And all that energy is other people's energy. He has done really well. He's worked very hard and deserved everything in the game of life that he gets. But you can't hold on to it, you know. It's
no, but he's reaching out to new worlds also. He's not.
He could reach out a lot fucking further. I mean,
sure
250 fucking million pounds. What is the point in having 250? That is just like tons of energy you got locked away doing nothing.
Well, Copernicus, it's good to see that a man who doesn't believe in existence at least is grateful for reality. And I'm grateful that you are with us today. And I'm sure our audience will go quickly to the nearest store and hear from real close up what you have to say, and it is of interest. And I guess the length of our interview attests to that. Thanks.
The only thing is that
Thanks
there
for
are only
being
two
with
record stores actually in Manhattan that have a Copernicus. It's a Tower Records downtown and Midnight on 23rd Street. Other than that, you could not buy a Copernicus record because of the horrendous distribution system we have in this country, and that's a fact. And you'd have to like buy Copernicus records from.
So which are the two shops?
Midnight on 23rd Street between the 7th and 8th, and Tower Records downtown.
Uh-huh.
They also have
which town? The one on Broadway downtown?
Yeah, 4th Street. Right?
4th Street.
Or send a questionnaire to Nevermore Inc. Box 170-150, Brooklyn, New York 11217, and we have all our records available through mail order.
Well, that's very good to know, because I didn't realize even that it was so limited a distribution. But
American
we will work on that.
Are very bad people.
Tower Records deserve a gold medal, because that shop, that downtown shop, is a special shop that it keeps records by people who are really, really very unknown. Lesser people who have tiny labels, less known than Copernicus. I mean, I've seen everybody. I mean, it's a great shop. It's really an amazing thing. And it's interesting too. Here you have this big, powerful chain, and you have these little stores on 8th Street that are supposedly friendly neighborhood cool shops, and they won't stock records.
Well, maybe that's why they became big and powerful, and they succeeded because they knew how to choose well. Thanks for being with us, Copernicus, and it was a great interview and a great time we spent together.
Thank you very much.
Again. Bye-bye.